Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. We will focus entirely on HTML and not include any other languages for this course. By the end, you should be able to create a basic web page using entirely HTML code. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to receive notifications on my future videos. This genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of Coding Fundamentals, which will allow me to keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. So, the basic structure of this course. We will first understand what HTML is, and then we will tackle all the main elements of the language while also giving you enough practice to develop confidence coding HTML. At the end of this course, we will finally code a more complex HTML page using all the techniques we have learned in order to really solidify your skills. Now, having said that, let's jump into your very first lesson. So the learning objectives for lesson number 1 is 1. Learn some basic facts about HTML, and 2. Understand what HTML is actually used for. To tackle learning objective number 1, learning some basic facts about HTML, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So it's a markup language and not a programming language like Python or JavaScript. Markup languages are easier to read, are more descriptive, and are interpreted directly by the browser. Programming languages, on the other hand, have extra functions, use complex variables, and produce different outputs. This is the main difference between the two kinds of languages, without going into too much detail for our purposes. So HTML is actually a great place to start, as it is easier than a programming language, but it will still give you great fundamentals into coding. And now to tackle learning objective number 2, understanding what HTML is used for. So HTML is the standard markup language used to create all web pages. So every single website you have ever landed on uses HTML code for its design. HTML is truly the building block of internet web pages, and it is an essential for web design. You can really think of HTML as a skeleton of web pages, as it is what gives structure to any website. So HTML tells browsers like Google Chrome or Safari how to display the content on web pages, i.e. in headings, in paragraphs, or as links, etc. The browser does not display the HTML code, but only the content we, the coders, decide to show. In this course, we will be coding HTML and creating our own basic web page. There have been several versions of HTML, but we will be using HTML5 for this tutorial, as this is the standard version most used. And that's actually it for lesson number 1, and this lesson was a basic introduction into HTML. We have already learned some basic facts about HTML, and we have learned what HTML is used for. And from lesson number 2, we will actually start coding and start creating our very own web page. So I'm very curious, why did you decide to start learning HTML? Definitely put your answers down in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoy lesson number 1, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 2. Comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to know of my future videos. This really supports me and fuels the growth of Coding Fundamentals, which will allow me to keep producing great and free education content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 2. So the learning objectives for this lesson is to 1. Set up Visual Studio Code, 2. Learn keywords of HTML code, and 3. Set up the foundations for any HTML code. So the first thing we need is actually a text editor software so that we can type out our code. we'll use VS Studio for our project, as this is a very popular software. So what we'll first do is that we will go on to their website here, and we will download Visual Studio Code. So you click download, and then you install whichever one works for your laptop, if you have Windows or a Mac, etc. Okay, now once you've downloaded it, you can open VS Studio and it will look something like this. Great. So you want to create a folder for all your code, so it's all in one place. So I created a folder called HTML coding right here, and you open it. And now VS Studio opens up the folder, and you can create your code on this folder, so it's all in one place. That's the best practice to take. Okay, so before we actually start coding, let's go through some theory and some keywords about HTML. So HTML uses elements and attributes. So HTML will let us display all sorts of things on a web page, like headings, paragraphs, links, images, etc. These different things are called elements. In coding language, an element consists of a start tag, content, and an end tag. The things in the inequality signs, like HTML, HTML here, they're called tags. The start tag and the start tag and the end tag. Most elements will both have a start and an end tag. However, some elements don't. Some elements just have a start tag, but the majority will have both. So the HTML tags here, for example, this element will let you know that you're coding in HTML. However, if you want to give the browser more information, like specify what language your code will be in, your content will be in, then you can add an attribute to the start tag that will specify things like language and style, etc. And we'll go through that when we're actually coding. Okay, so now having said all of that, I think it's time we actually started coding. Now, every single HTML page you will ever code needs certain lines of code to ensure that the file is set up for success. So let's open up our file here. So we'll go here and we'll click on new document, and let's call it index.html. That way the file knows that we're coding in HTML. So before you start, the first thing you need is to write a document declaration at the start of the file, so that the browser knows the version of HTML is being used. And like I said before, we'll be using HTML5, and therefore we need this document type declaration. So doc type HTML is what we need. And now the browser knows that we are writing HTML5. Okay. And then we also always need an HTML element, so that the text editor knows we're writing HTML. And we also need an head and body element, and all of these will go inside the HTML element. So head and a body. Great. So the head element will contain important metadata. The body element will contain all of our content for the web page. And great. So now we can run our live server, so we can see what this will look like on the browser. So left click and click open live server, and this is what the web page we're coding looks like right now. So there's nothing on there because we haven't included any headings or code or anything yet so far. So let's start typing. So an extra element that we would need is, you see the tab here. So we want the tab to be relevant to what we're actually coding. And the way to change the title of this tab is by adding a title element, and you would put that inside the head elements here. So title, and you can give it a title. So we're coding a diary entry. So let's code diary entry as the content. And now you can see the tab changes into diary entry, which is great. And finally, we will also add an attribute to the HTML element here. So remember, attributes go inside the opening tag, only the opening tag. And they come in a name and value pair. So a name and value pair means, so the name would be lang, which stands for language, and the value would be English, and the code for English is just EN. So now this is the name and this is the value, and altogether this is called an attribute. And now the HTML code knows that all our content will be in the English language. Great. So now we have finished setting up our code, and we are really, well set up so that the code that we will do in the next lessons are well set up for future success, and we will minimize errors for the future if everything is set up correctly like this. Great. So that's actually it for lesson number 2. And if you liked this video, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You'll have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 3. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like and subscribe to my channel, and also click the bell icon to be notified of my future videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of Coding Fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 3. So the learning objectives of this lesson is 1. To be able to use heading elements successfully, 2. To understand different types of headings, and 3. Use attributes to format our headings correctly. This is actually a very exciting lesson, as we are finally about to learn how to populate our page with actual content. So the heading element actually uses the H tag from H1 all the way up to H6. H1 is the most important heading, and H6 is the least important heading, and the importance is denoted by the size of each heading. Okay, so let's actually start coding. So let's type in H1, and let's make our content called title, and let's see what H1 looks like on the browser. Okay, so our content title appears on the browser. That's really exciting. We finally put something on our web page. And now let's do H2, the same thing, and let's see whether there's difference between H1 and H2. And yeah, there is. So H2 is smaller. Again, it's less important than H1. Okay, great. So now let's, for curiosity's sake, let's try putting all the other headings in there and see what the difference in sizes is. Okay, so you can see from H1 to H6, the sizes gradually decrease. So this way you can create titles, headings, subheadings, sub-subheadings, all in HTML. In the previous lessons, I've also mentioned attributes, which gives browsers more information about your content. So you can use the style attribute for headings to adjust their font size, the font color, and even the position of the heading on the page. So, for example, let's say you want to increase the font size of the H1 element here, and we want to make it 60 pixels. So you type style and then font size and then 60 pixels, px. And let's see what that looks like. So title gets bigger. So 60 pixels is larger than the default size for H1. Now let's make H2, let's change the color to crimson. So you would type style and then you would type color and crimson. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So yeah, H2 changes to crimson. Now let's make H3 appear in the center of the page. So you would type, again, the attribute style, and here you would type text align and center, and that's how you can make it move to the center of the page. So yeah, now title is in the center of the page. Okay, now let's say that you want to make all of these adjustments on the color, the alignment, and the size all onto one heading. So let's say we want to make H1 crimson and also centered at 60 pixels of size. So you can just copy and paste it like this. So you actually can have multiple sizes and multiple adjustments on this style attribute. Just make sure to have the semicolon there as well at the end of each change. And now let's see what this looks like. Okay, so yeah, the font size is 60, the text is crimson colored, and it's aligned at the center. That's awesome. So now let us have some practice. So for this one, let's make H2 aquamarine color. So currently it's crimson, so let's make it aquamarine. Okay, and let's make H3 show up in the right. Okay, text align right, and let's make H4 30 pixels. Okay, style, font size 30 pixels. Great. And let's make H6 sienna colored and centered. Okay, awesome. Actually, let's H3, let's make it show up on the left side, so we can bring it back to this side with all the other headings. Okay, let's see what this will look like. Okay, awesome. So now we've seen H2 changes to aquamarine, H3 is aligned to the left with all the other headings, font H4 is now 30 pixels, it's larger, and H6 we have made it sienna, and we have made it appear at the center of the web page. Great. So yeah, I hope you were able to do the practice questions. Definitely let me know if you had any difficulties there or whether you found it really easy. Okay, so if you enjoyed lesson number 3, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you soon in lesson number 4. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon to be notified of future videos. This genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of this channel, which will allow me to keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump straight into lesson number 4. The learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Use paragraph elements successfully, 2. Understand spacing and layout of paragraph elements, 3. Use text formatting tags, and 4. Use attributes to change the style of the text. Okay, so paragraph elements uses the p tag. It is one of the most important and frequently used tags in HTML. Each paragraph starts a new line on the web page, so 2 paragraph elements will always start a new separate line. You cannot change the display by adding extra spaces between words or weird spacing between lines in your code. They will not show, so you will not be able to, for example, write haikus or poetries with the paragraph element. You will have to write each line with a new paragraph, but you will not be able to use special spacing. However, you can use the BR and HR tags, which stands for line break and horizontal line, to separate lines and paragraphs from each other. Okay, so let's code some paragraphs together. Okay, so for example, paragraph I go to school. Let's see what that looks like on the web page. So it's just a line. Okay, let's say you want to add a new sentence. I go to school every day because it is required. Okay, so here you can see that the two paragraphs both started a separate new line. So they don't follow each other even though they follow each other on the text editor. So each paragraph element takes a separate line. So in order to make them join together in the web page, you just have to make it into one paragraph like this. And now it should join as one sentence. Okay, great. Now let's write a text that is a bit longer. So let's do lorem, which will give us some lorem ipsum text. Let's make it easy for us to read. Okay, so let's see what it looks like. Okay, great. So let's say we want to put a line break between Ching Elit. So here you put BR, and let's say we also want a horizontal line between these two paragraphs. So HR. Okay, now let's see what this looks like. So great, there's a horizontal line, and after Elit there is a line break. Awesome. So now let's go a bit further. So now there's also something called text formatting ads. So you can make text, certain words or phrases bold in italics, underline them, put a mark through them to highlight them, even cross out words using the B, M, U, mark, and delete tags. So let's try and do this on the paragraph we've just written. Let's make the word dollar sit bold. So we would type B here, and we put the closing tag after the phrase we want bolded. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so now it's bolded. What if you want it in italics? That's also quite simple. Okay, it's in italics. And what if we wanted this phrase deleted? Let's see what it looks like now. Now you can see a line goes right through it. That's great. Okay. And we can also, if that wasn't enough, we can further edit our text by using attributes. So certain attributes of paragraphs includes editing their style, like their font family, the font color, the font size, etc. So let us change the font of this paragraph. So you would put the attribute style and you would type font family. And let's make this font family Franklin Gothic Medium. Okay, now let's see what this looks like. Okay, so as you can see, the font of this paragraph changed. And previously we did say that poetry on HTML coding is quite difficult since the paragraph element does not conserve the line breaks and the spaces between words, like here, this weird spacing between lines. None of this is preserved. So as you see here, all of this nice nice poem becomes just one line, very boring. So if you wanted to actually preserve the line spacing and the spaces between words, there's actually a special element that you can use, and it's called pre, and that's short for preserve. So you can type this, and now you'll see the poem is preserved perfectly. Great. Okay, well, I hope that makes sense. And now we should do some practice questions. So for the practice questions, here. So create 3 paragraphs and use a different font for each paragraph. Make 3 of the words bold and italic and highlight 2 of the words. And also make a poem and preserve the weird spacing and line orders. Definitely comment below how you found these exercises below, and we can help each other out if it was difficult. Great. So that's it for lesson number 4. So if you enjoyed lesson number 4, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 5. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to know when I upload new videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of Coding Fundamentals, which lets me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, let's jump in straight to lesson number 5. The learning objectives. 1. Understand the link element. 2. Create a link. 3. Make the link open to a new tab. So the link element uses the A tag. However, the A tag, unlike the H or P tag, needs an attribute to function as a link, since the URL goes in this attribute, and that attribute is called the href attribute. And if you want the link to open in a new tab, you also need to use the target attribute, and we will show you how both these attributes are used. So let's go to our text editor. Okay, great. So for example, let's say we want to create a link that will take us to Google. So we would type A as our element and our tags, and it comes up on the text editor, and let's type the content of this link as link to Google. Okay, now this itself won't work because we need to put the URL of Google in here, and we do that through the href attribute. Href equals HTTPS. We can just go on Google and then copy the URL and place it here. Okay, great. And now this should open onto Google when you click it here. However, this will open the Google link on this tab, and we don't want that. We want the web page to open Google on a new tab. And in order to do that, we also need a target attribute. So target, and then you have to put blank as the value. And now when you click on Google, it should open in a new tab, just like that. Okay, so that's awesome. So that's basically it for lesson number 5. If you enjoyed lesson number 5, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 6. My comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to know when I upload new videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of Coding Fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 6. The learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Understand what empty elements are, and 2. Understand how to use comments. So remember that most elements have a start tag and an end tag. For example, the H heading tag and like the P for paragraph element as well. However, some elements have neither content nor end tags, and these are called empty elements. So you have actually already met several of these empty elements before, like the line break and the horizontal line. And in our next lesson, we'll be looking at the most famous empty element, the image empty element. And these are all examples of empty elements which do not have an end tag or content. Next, we'll be tackling comments. So sometimes you will want to take notes in your code so that you don't forget things, or you want to leave notes for a team member because you're collaborating with others. So the code written as comments are not executed by the browser. They're purely there just as notes for the coder and for others who are also working on the same project. So this is how you would write comments in your code. Let's go to the text editor. So let's say you have a paragraph here. And now you want to write a comment. Say you clocked off of work, but you want the next coder to get rid of, not to get rid of, let's say you want the next coder to make this phrase in bold, but you don't have time to do it. So you write a note here and you will say, please make in bold. So the way you write a comment is you do the inequality sign and then exclamation mark and then 2 hyphens, and that's how a comment is made. So everything inside these 2 tags are not executed by the browser, so it's just purely notes. And in addition to writing notes, once your code gets very long and complicated, you will find bugs in your code. So you can use commenting for debugging, as everything in a comment is not run by the browser. So you can check for certain issues in specific sections of your code. So let's say you had multiple paragraphs, but for some reason something isn't working correctly. So you want to take down the last paragraph from your code to see whether that's the issue. So you would write a comment and you put the end of it here. So everything here is now made in a comment form. So nothing here will be run, and you can isolate problems areas of your code doing this. So once a code gets more complicated, this is a very powerful tool to isolate certain sections of your code. So yeah, definitely include comments in your code if it's a complex project and if you're working with other people. For practice, please write 3 comments in your code and also add a line break into your paragraph, as a line break is an empty element. Great. So if you enjoyed lesson number 6, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You'll have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 7. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from 0 to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to know when I upload new videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of coding fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 7. So the learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Add an image successfully, 2. Understand the necessary attributes for images, 3. Move the image on the page, and 4. Add an image to the background of some element in the code. Great. So image is an empty element and it does not need a closing tag, so it will just be image as the start tag. However, the attributes of the source attributes and the alt attributes are necessary for images. So the source attribute gives you the image location and lets the browser know what image we're actually using. And the alt attribute gives a description if the picture is not visible for some reason, or doesn't load, or if the user uses a screen reader, for example. Okay, and other attributes we can also use for images to edit their size are the width and length attributes, and also you can also move the picture on the browser to the right, to the center, to the left using the float attribute. That way you can move the picture around. Okay, so let's add an image onto our code. Okay, so image, and that's the tag. As you can see, the text editor does not give an end tag because, as I said, it's an empty element. But we do need a source attribute, and that will be the picture I have saved in the folder, flowers. And we will also give it an alt attribute in case the picture doesn't load, and we'll say picture of pink flowers. Okay, so let's see what this looks like on the browser. Whoa, so as you can see, the image is huge, so that won't do. We need to reduce the size, so let's use the width attribute and let's make it 300 pixels. Okay, great. Now the picture is at a usable size. Okay. You know what? I really don't like the fact that it's on the left side. Why don't we make it go to the right side? Okay. So we'll use the float attribute. Okay. Float. Oh, sorry. You need to use the style attribute and then float. Style, float, and let's make it go to the right. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's see what happens to the browser. Okay, so as you can see, the image is now on the right side. Great. Okay, so now I've added a paragraph here and it's in magenta color. So there it is. Now let's make the image go behind this paragraph so it's sort of a background. So how would you do that? So you go on the paragraph element and style in, but because we already have style here, we don't need to do that again. So we can do background image URL, and then we can copy the source URL from here and put it inside. And now, and also let's make the text white so that it shows itself on top of the background. Okay, great. So now you can see we have the image of the flowers behind the text as a background. So that's how you would use images as a background, and this is how you would move them across the page and adjust their size using attributes like width. So that's it for this day's lesson. And yeah, let me know what your favorite technique from today's class is. Was it the floating? Was it the changing the size? Or was it using it as a background? Great. So, if you guys enjoyed lesson number 7, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You'll have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 8. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to receive future notifications of my next videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of coding fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 8. So the learning objectives for this lesson is to 1. Add a table, and 2. Understand all the elements for a table, as there are quite a few. So, a table element is actually the most complex element so far in HTML we have covered, but it's not actually that hard once you understand all the different elements that are required. So, you have the table element, which lets the browser know that we're making a table, TR, which stands for table row, TH for table headings, and TD to create table data points. So, let's actually go and code some tables right now. Okay, so you start with the table heading, table element, and then then we would need a table row first of all, and the first row will always be the headings. So let's write our headings, and let's make this cats, dogs, and birds. Okay, so the next row we would need is to actually have some data points for the heading of cats, dogs, and birds. So you need TD, and let's call it Cheshire under cats, and Labrador under dogs, and parrot under birds. Great. And let's do this. Let's copy and paste this 2 more times. Okay. And let's call this Cheshire 2, Labrador 2, Parrot 2, Cheshire 3, Labrador 3, and Parrot 3. Great. And now let's see what this will look like in the browser. So great, now we've successfully made a table. And as you can see, TH, or the table heading, is automatically centered and bolded by the browser. That's great. So now we have successfully made our first table. And this is enough, really, for our purposes. This is just to understand basic HTML. You can make the table prettier by adding borders and having extra spacing and padding, but all of that will require CSS. So for HTML purposes, this is more than enough for us. So we can end the lesson here. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed lesson number 8, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in lesson number 9. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from zero to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to know when I upload new videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of coding fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into lesson number 9. So the learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Create an ordered list, 2. Create an unordered list, and 3. Learn attributes to style them. So we will learn how to add lists onto your HTML document, which is an important skill for HTML, and we can create 2 kinds of lists, unordered lists and ordered lists. And we can also use attributes to add style to both of these lists. Okay, so let's create an unordered list first. Okay, so the tag for an unordered list is ul to let the browser know we're making a list. And now each of the things on the list will go under an li element. So let's say cats, dogs, and birds. Okay. Great. Now let's see what this unordered list looks like. Okay. So my favorite animals are cats, dogs, and birds. Okay. So as you can see, the list gives us bullet points with these 3 dots. So how about we change the dots into something else? So we can do that by using a style element. So style, list style type, and let's give it a circle. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so now the black dots have become circled. We can also make them into squares. So now they become squares. So you can change how the list looks by using style. Okay, great. Now, my favorite animals are cats, dogs, and birds. There's no necessary order. I like all of them equally. But let's say I want to, say I like cats the most, dogs, and then birds. So for that, you can actually use an ordered list. And instead of UL, it will be OL. So now let's see what this looks like. So now you can see I like cats the most, then dogs, and then birds. Okay. And the same principle, you can change the style by doing list style type. And now we can even make it into Roman numerals. So let's do upper Roman and let's see what it looks like. So I, and I. Great. And if you wanted to, you could also change this into upper alpha, so it will be A, B, C, like that. So there are all sorts of different ways you can style your lists. So for practice, create 3 different lists, some ordered and some unordered, and give each of them a different style. Great. So that's it for lesson number 9. If you enjoyed this lesson, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You'll have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in the last lesson, lesson number 10. Welcome to my comprehensive HTML course for absolute beginners. This course has 10 lessons that will take you from 0 to HTML expert. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to know when I upload new videos. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of coding fundamentals, which will allow me to keep producing great and free education content for all you guys. Now, having said that, let's jump into our final lesson, lesson number 10. So the learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Code a diary entry using entirely HTML, and 2. Use a variety of techniques learned in this course. So it's very exciting. We're finally going to code live a real diary entry using just HTML. Okay, so let's jump into the code. Okay, so as you can see, there's nothing here. So we have a blank slate to start off with. So let's add a heading. Okay, H1, and let's call it, for our diary entry, let's call it flowers. Okay, great. So our heading is there, and okay, let's let's center this heading so it's right in the middle of the page, and also let's change the color. Okay, so you do style, text align, center, and we want to change the color as well. So color, yeah, let's make it red. I don't like red. Let's change it to crimson. We know that color works. Okay, far nicer. Okay, so now we have our heading. How about, we add an image of the flowers that we had. Okay, image and source code. Remember, it's an empty element, so it doesn't need a closing tag. Source code, and we'll use the same picture, flowers JPG, and let's add the alt as a picture of flowers. We need the alt in case people are using screen readers, so we want to be accessible. And yeah, let's see what that looks like. So the same problem as before, it's too big. So we need to reduce the size of this image. And let's do that by doing width and making it 300 pixels. Okay, great. So let's make our picture float to the right, actually. So style, float, right. This way it will float to the right of the page. Awesome. And now, let's have a paragraph of text to appear on the left of this picture. So I've copied a text that we will be using here. And okay, so like as you can see here, this is the real text and this is just filler text. So we're gonna come back to this another day and add our text, just not today. So let's leave a comment for ourselves. So please add the real text from here. So now when we go back to the code, we know, okay, we need to actually add real text here because it's just filler. So this comment is a note for ourselves in the future. Great. Now let's see what this looks like. Okay, so the text appears nicely to the left of the picture. It looks great. But I don't like this font. Let's change the font. And do you remember how to do that? Yes, you go on style and you type font family. And let's make it, Georgia Times New Roman Times Serif. Let's do Georgia. Okay. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, awesome. So now you can see the text is on the left side and it leaks over under the picture, which I quite like. It gives a nice stylistic effect. So great. Now let's write a list, because we don't just like every flower, we always will have our favorites. So let's do a subheading, and we will do H2 this time to make it smaller than our main heading. My favorite flowers. Okay. And because they're your favorite flowers, let's do an ordered list as opposed to an unordered list. And let's create our list. So the first flower I like is roses, and then cherry blossoms, and then lavender. Okay, awesome. Let's see what that looks like. Great. So we actually see here that they're just numbers 1, 2, 3. let's be a bit more sophisticated, or a bit more fancy, and let's make it into Roman numerals. So you would type here list style type, and let's do upper Roman. Great. So now our list is in Roman numerals. Okay. So already our page is looking, it's filled. We filled this all up with HTML. If you manage to, come this far, you should be really proud of yourself. And to end the page, let's add a link so that we can find more pictures of flowers if you want to. Okay, so a link, and let's type find more pictures of flowers here. Okay, and now we need to actually make it a link by putting a URL. So href as an attribute, and we will copy and paste the URL from Google Images. So here. Okay, awesome. And now we have our link here, but we want it to open on a separate tab. So you would add the target attribute and make it blank. So now we are ready to click on the link, which will take us to Google Images. Okay, so as you can see, we have coded our diary entry on the web page using just HTML. So as you can see, if you have followed the course, you've managed to do all sorts of things using HTML: headings, paragraphs, images, lists, subheadings, links, and styling them in a variety of ways. So I really hope you've learned a great deal by following this 10-part course. So thank you for joining us this far. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this lesson and the entire course, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon, as it genuinely helps support my channel, and you'll have my eternal gratitude. And I really hope you've enjoyed this 10-part course, and yeah, please enjoy coding HTML from now on as an HTML expert.